Romy an accomplished imposter syndrome and career coach based in North Vancouver, British Columbia. Romy helps professionals confidently accelerate their careers by overcoming imposter syndrome and embracing their true potential. With a rich background that includes nearly 2 decades of corporate experience, fluency in 3 different languages, and a history as an international competitive swimmer, Romy brings a unique and inspiring story to the table. Thanks for being with us today, Romy.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that wonderful intro. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So your journey is very unique. You were an athlete as well as myself. Yeah. I played football and baseball in college, and you were a international swimmer, correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah, swimmer. Only one though. It's amazing. And you had 2 sports that you were there for, so I was just swimming.
So what made you want to get into entrepreneurship? What was that journey? And tell us a little bit more about that story.
Well, honestly, entrepreneurship has always been part of my DNA. It's always been something that I wanted to do, and I think that I've been drawn to. I think it comes very much from the sporting side of things. So, especially swimming is a very much an individual person sport, right? Like you do have your relays and that, but it's very much individual. And I've just always been drawn to the harder you work yourself, the more you can achieve side of things. So I've also in my real estate, I've always done my own thing, being part of a company, but I've always been self-employed in some way, shape or form. But the life coaching really just came about as, there were so many different things that happened in my life, but the biggest thing that got me into life coaching really was after I had just had my second baby. So I was, I think it was a month after just having the second baby, the team that I was working with decided to cut me out of a commission completely on a deal that I was part of. Anyway, so long story short, got the commission, but it was such a defining moment for me where I'd put all this work and this effort in, and it was 1 month after giving birth, and I was exhausted, I was overwhelmed, I was tired, and I wanted to just give up then. And all these thoughts of, you know what, maybe I must just not fight so hard, and maybe I just should let go, and maybe I should just let them, do what it is that they're doing. And I just got to a point where I'm like, no, it's been such a slug for so many years, and I'm not ready to give up. And I just had this change in me, and I just really want to help anyone else that goes through this, where they have the sense of overwhelm and they have these things that happen to them over and over again, where they just feel small and are kept in their little boxes, and to help them really to find their own voice again, to find their identity, to get out of the box and really live their life to their fullest capacity. I
love that. And honestly, that's what it's all about. Most of the entrepreneurs I talk to, it's usually for the same reasons we all get into it, right? It's for the freedom. It's for the independence. And it's typically a story like that kind of leads you into this. I don't know what it is, but it's like a calling, and it just it's like a magnet, right? Something happens in life and it just pushes you, it opens more doors, right? And so that's why I'm such an advocate for entrepreneurship and business. And I love to have guests like you on, especially because everybody's getting into business today. What do you think they should do to start in order to get them to where they want to go?
Well, I think the very first thing that is super important is to absolutely be crystal clear and know what it is that you want to do. So it's good like knowing, you know what, I want to start my own thing and I want to have this freedom and I want to have all this time. That's wonderful, and that's part of it. But to actually really, really know deeply, what is it that I want? What am I passionate about? What can I wake up in the morning excited about to get to do? And I think that's a thing that we tend to miss. So it's getting really absolutely clear on the goal, what it is that you really want to do, and then to stack on that with why are you doing it? So really, what are the motivations behind it? Who are you doing it for? Why are you doing it? Is it to provide legacy for your family? Is it to be a role model for your kids? Is it to help others? Like what is it that really gets you motivated to stay on track?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
On your way to success, there's going to be a lot of setbacks. There's going to be a lot of things that push you forward as well, though. And so you got to know what you want. You got to have a good direction. I actually just spoke with Richard Walsh, who's a big investor, and that's much of his message, right? Like picking out a car, you got to know what you're looking for. You got to know what you want.
Absolutely.
And it's very true with business. And, especially this world of, imposter syndrome. It's a big thing. It's a real thing, right? And so you have to know yourself. It's what's the saying? Know thyself. Right. So
know thyself. Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us more about that. What is imposter syndrome? What is that feeling that is so hard to overcome, and why is it hard to overcome?
That's a great question. And just to coming back to what you earlier said, that yes, it is so massively prevalent. I mean, there's so many stats out there. So depending on what you read, it's anywhere from 70 to 80% of Northern Americans have experienced imposter syndrome in the workplace setting, specifically in some way, shape, or form. But what I also want to mention here is that imposter syndrome is not only in the workplace setting. It can also be at home. It can be like, am I a good enough partner? Am I a good enough friend? Am I a good enough parent? So it's these type of feelings that can happen across the board, really. But how it shows up, and the biggest thing, which is probably also the best known, is just this being in a position, whatever it is, and this fear of being found out of am I actually really capable of doing this? And how did I land myself in this role? And when are they going to find out that I'm actually not capable of doing what everyone thinks that I'm doing, and disregarding all the achievements that you've had up until such state, and just always getting yourself into such a state of overwhelm and stress about being found out. And it's a big thing, because it takes up so much of your mental capacity and mental state that it really takes you away from what it is that you can really do. But what I also want to mention is imposter syndrome, because it is such a broad thing, and there's so many different let's say symptoms of what imposter syndrome could potentially be. One has to really do an internal inventory and see if you really do have imposter syndrome, or is it just situational. So just by way of a very quick example here, let's say you have a presentation coming up, person A, person B. Person A knows this presentation is coming up, and they don't really do much for it for whatever reason. On the day, they're like, oh my goodness, I haven't prepared. I'm going to make mistakes. What if I fail? What if they think that I can't do this? And then they do the presentation. Presentation's okay. And then they claim the win, and they move on. Now, person B will start over preparing immediately, having these thoughts from day one, like, why did they pick me? I don't know if I'm actually capable of doing this. I don't know if I'm able to do this. What if I make mistakes? What if they're going to laugh at me? What if I'm going to be fired? And like all these thoughts that just happen for the entire time up until the presentation. Presentation happens, they do really well, and then instead of claiming the win of having done a presentation, it's more of a sense of relief. Thank goodness. Okay, it worked out this time. Until next time, when it repeats. So it's really like, is it a situational thing, or is it a recurring pattern? And that's a big definition or defining thing for imposter syndrome.
I think that's a very real thing too. Yeah. It's especially when you start to do anything that's kind of outside of society's norm, like start a podcast, or, you want to be an actor, you want to be an artist, an entertainer, whatever it might be. And you always are going to have those things, those emotions in your head, right? You're always going to have those ideas. Was I meant for this? Am I the one who should be doing this? Am I even trained? Am I experienced? Am I good enough? And there's always those doubts. And so
absolutely,
that's why I'm such an advocate of just going so full force in and not even worrying about all of that and just getting the work done, and executing on the work. And I think that's a great way to accomplish or overcome imposter syndrome as well.
It absolutely is, but it also depends a little bit on like how long have you been having this imposter syndrome, and how long have you really been feeling this? Because if you are in such a state where you just do not have inherent confidence and trust in yourself, then that does need to be unpacked a little bit, so that you could start building your confidence and start really trusting yourself a little bit, so that you can take the next step. And also, like you're saying, like taking action is super, super important, but every action has a consequence. So little steps move the needle as much as big, so it's important to have those little steps just to keep going, keep the consistency. But I really do believe that it starts with an internal confidence and internal intrinsic belief in self, so that you are confident to continue taking those steps going forward.
Yeah. It's very accurate. Yeah. You got to believe before you can see, almost. And that's kind of that's the magic behind it. And so that's always been my solution. That's always my advice to anybody who's, hey, how do I get through imposter syndrome? Or how do I get through, I got all these negative comments. I'm like, listen, negative comments are part of it. That's part of it. But much more people are going to be supportive. Much more people are going to be inspired at the very least. Right. So you have to just keep going. You have to take action, of course. But like you said, you have to have those, you have to have those moments where you do some soul searching. And I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And unpacking to see if it's a recurring pattern, if it's situational, if it's, how long has it been going on? Is it only in one element of your life? Is it across the board? So it's a bit of a deep process to really unpack that, then to deal with it, and then to move on from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as someone who's won 6 gold medals, you would know. What was that at the African Games or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was it in Cairo? I forget what year it was, maybe 2003. I forget what it was, but yeah.
Right, somebody who's done that. What's some good advice for our audience on how to transfer the disciplines and the mindset from your athletic career to the coaching mindset, but also to the business, the entrepreneurship, or just going to your job and getting things done and accomplishing those difficult tasks in order to get you the success you're looking for?
Good question. So I think for me, and I learned this the hard way, is failure happens, right? You're not going to win every race. You're not going to medal every time. Sometimes in my case, you mess up a turn, you mess up a start, and that just blows your entire race. And instead of getting stuck on I messed up my turn, or I didn't have a good start, or whatever went wrong within that race, think about, okay, so what went wrong? How could I have done that? What can I train on? How can I fix that? So going forward, this problem this won't happen again. So it's really taking that small element, working on it till you're confident on that, and then moving on to the next thing. And it's the same thing with business, right? You're not going to, from day one, what's the saying? You're not going to be a millionaire by Monday. You have to start, and the first time you start, you'll make a mistake. The next time you'll do it again. But every time you make a mistake, you can learn something from that. And that is a Tony Robbins, I think, that coined the phrase. But when you learn something, then knowledge is power, and power then gets you going forward. So it's really just taking the win in every aspect, no matter how big or how small it is, turning that into a positive for you to learn from and then to move forward from.
Reasons it's important to be a motivated individual. If you want to live in beautiful mansions that have potential and just houses that can change your life, if you want to have a life that can be better, then you need to be an entrepreneur. You need to get into business, because guess what? There's a huge value to being brave, to taking risks. Fortune favors the bold. Fortune favors those who are willing to go against the status quo. Take a look at these houses. You could have this if you're motivated. You can have this life if you really want it. Do the research. These houses are quite a few million. But if you really want it bad enough, you can have a house like this. And that's really what it takes. You got to be motivated. You got to be in business. You got to be an entrepreneur. You got to be able to start businesses, own businesses, and not have to work inside of the business. You got to learn how to make compound interest. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, this is the way. So if you want more advice on money, if you want more advice on wealth, then be sure to follow my content. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also follow me on Instagram and every other social media platform, because I provide a lot of value. Also follow us on LinkedIn so we can find great business owners like you who are trying to grow their business. You want to grow your business? Click the link in the description below, and let's give you a good life. Let's give you good results. Let's give you the life you deserve. Okay? And then maybe one day you can have a house like that.
I work with Apricot Solar, and I've been working with B2B Growth Today and Brendan Ecker for about the last month, and I've been really impressed with everything that they have been able to do for me to help me grow my business by giving me advice on how advertising and how I should be posting each day, and then them helping me to do so. And they've been very consistent on everything that all of the promises that they've made. I get daily updates on the project, and it's very thorough and professional, and it's really nice to be working with somebody that is doing good work and doing it as they say they're going to do it. And I've just been very impressed overall. And I would recommend anybody I know to work with B2B Growth Today and Brendan Ecker. They have really helped me grow my business, and I'm excited for what we're going to do in the future.
Yes. Yeah. That's very good advice. With nearly 2 decades of experience in the corporate world, what are some surprising lessons you've learned that you could pass on to your clients or myself or anybody really listening?
That's a good question. So the first thing that comes to mind really is there's a big difference. Well, I found there was a big difference in corporate in America versus Northern America versus in South Africa. People are really, really important. So it's important to connect with people and connect with people in a real way, not just a surface level way, because life happens, right? And if you're in a corporate environment and you're in a little silo, you don't have anyone to help you or to work with or to, to mentor you, whatever it is. So I think the biggest lesson learned is not to go at it alone. Like, you don't have to do things alone. Work with people, forge alliances, work with mentors, work with whatever it is. You don't go at it alone. And when you're having a bad day, that you have someone that you can lean on, even someone to speak to in the office, whatever it is. But the big thing is, don't go at it alone. There is, even if you're a solopreneur, you don't have to do it alone. You can always get help and guidance and whatever from external people. But what I do want to say to that is, oftentimes not really friends and family, because friends and family are either one of two things. They're either super, super supportive and tell you you're doing amazing, you don't need to do anything differently, everything is wonderful, or they go into the overcritical. So it's finding someone who's a little bit impartial, like a work colleague would be great, or anyone like that, and having an accountability partner, really.
I think that's great. I love that you included the family and the parents. It's definitely a real problem. And, the process of being an entrepreneur, for anybody listening, is good luck with that. Your family is tough too. It's tough to overcome that, right? And that's very true. It's either they're going to be very supportive, or it's going to be, you're crazy. What are you doing?
You're crazy. Yes.
No sense. You could have a stable paycheck every single week. You could have this great life, health insurance, all of this, but you want to go and build something of your own. Go work for that guy,
Yes,
and I'm just
exactly.
I want to be that guy though, and so that's, I love that you say that. And especially working with other people, when you're working with other people, when you work alone, you might go faster, but when you work with a team, you go further. And so I definitely agree.
Absolutely. And you can also, you don't have to work with someone who is like 100 steps ahead of you. You can work with someone who's just maybe 10 steps ahead of you, but you can learn from them. So you don't have to make the same mistakes they did. And in that way, it does also get you ahead faster. So it's, I strongly believe in that.
Yeah, typically you want to work with somebody who's just a little bit ahead of you too, because that way they're not so far ahead of you that like, oh, what are you even doing talking to me? I got all this. I'm trying to be on the beach right now in Coco Cay, right? Like, what are you talking
exactly.
about? Right. You want somebody who's just like, okay, well, we just did this like a year or two ago. Okay, yeah, let me show you how we did it. And so that's really what's given me a lot of success along the way. That's kind of what's helped our agency grow. I've worked with other agency owners who just know more than me. They've been doing it a little bit longer. They have better strategy, and you kind of work off of that. You bounce off of each other, right? I'm sure as a life coach, you probably have different life coaches that you connect with, and you're like, okay, I like what they're doing. Okay, well, that didn't work. Maybe we'll do this instead.
Well, 100%. And I just want to touch on two things that you mentioned there. So the first thing is, yes, as a life coach, absolutely. I believe like no one knows everything, right? So I can always learn from someone. I also need to get my mindset on track. So I've always got some kind of a coach in my corner in some way, shape or form. Someone to just get my mind right, to bounce ideas off, to stay on track, right? I mean, another thing that you mentioned is just to learn from other people that are only a year ahead of you or whatever it is, because you can't possibly know everything. You're open to learning from other people in a collaborative way that pulls you forward. So yes, it's definitely important, I believe, to have people in your corner.
Who are some big inspirations in the life coaching field? I know you mentioned Tony Robbins is one. I really love Tony Robbins. Any modern day gurus or, modern day gurus, who are your favorite ones that are attracting your eye, and kind of who do you think's going and doing some big things today, or who just, inspired you?
So three jump to mind immediately, and they're very much in my orbit. First one is Mark Van Musa. He's just launched his own company. I think it's called Sales Alchemy or so. He is just an incredibly inspirational mindset coach, really. So he's really a phenomenal human being who just lifts you up. He's wonderful. Then Jessie Torres. She's a very heart-centered coach. Also, just again, being in her presence makes you feel amazing. And then Brooke Bishop. And Brooke Bishop, they're all coaches, but Brooke Bishop is a very tangible, hands-on person who can help you with immediate things. So they for me, they cover all three elements. And they're good people. They're really just wonderful human beings, and make you really feel good and make you feel confident and help you build your confidence and help you get going. And so they are specifically coaches for coaches. And So yeah, those are the three that jump to mind immediately.
Those are some good ones too. Yeah, I've seen some of their work. I definitely like it. Yeah, I like the answers. My favorite life coaches through the years have been definitely Tony Robbins was one of the first ones. He was like the first life coach I was like introduced to. I'm like, oh, okay, I like that. I like that positivity. I like the mindset. And then I started watching more. Joel Osteen's he's more of like a prosperity gospel, but much of what he talks about is very, life coach, and, he sells lots of books, and he's been doing the speaking thing for a long time. He does the same show every week, and I'm like honestly still impressed by it. He still looks the same. So that's always been intriguing to me with Joel Osteen's. And I think so. He's doing some interesting work, even though he's not like a life coach per se. He's more like, he's more of a pastor, right? But, I just find that interesting. But those are some of mine. I like for today, I like Ty Lopez, right? Alex Hormozy. That's kind of my generation. We like them. But yeah.
Alex Hormozy, absolutely understand that.
Yeah, he's smart. It's crazy. He's done some amazing things with social media. I mean, every podcast I listen to, I hear him mentioned, and now I'm doing it. So yeah.
What I love about Alex's story specifically is he is very transparent about, like, it's taken him 7 years to get to wherever he is now. So when people look at him, they're like, oh, he's this overnight success, but he's not, right? And he's very transparent about that because he's been consistently doing it for 7 years. And yes, at some point it does catch on. But I think that's a really, really important message for solopreneurs, for entrepreneurs, for anyone starting their own thing, is that it's really just sticking with it. And the first year is the hardest. First year and a half, whatever it is, but it will happen. It's the only way, in my opinion, the only way that you will ever, quote unquote, fail is if you give up. If you don't give up, it will work. It will work at some stage, maybe not quite in the time frame that you wanted to, but it's sticking with it consistently, believing in yourself, doing something daily, no matter how big or small, just to continue with it, and you will be successful.
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
just like
a good
riding
message
a bike.
that he brings forward.
Yeah, it's like riding a bike. It's like learning to play basketball. Eventually, you're a little kid, you can't even get the basketball to the rim. Like you're trying, you're doing your best, and you can't even get it up there. Yes. But then eventually you figure it out, and it finally goes in, and then you get addicted to it, right? And then you get the form, and then you get the gooseneck, and you're starting to swish every single time. You got 3-pointers like no problem. And so that's what's really cool about that art of persistence and continuing something. You get better and better and better. Right? Like Kobe Bryant, you said he would take 500 or 1,000 shots or maybe more. I don't remember what he said, but he would take like a certain amount of shots before practices alone, just because he wanted to have that edge. And I find it's just a real thing. Tom Brady, a lot of the same thing with him. He would talk about how when he was playing at University of Michigan, a lot of the competitors who he was going against, they kind of looked down on him, but he had to stay focused and keep learning from those people. And now it's like, they talk about him.
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting way it's an interesting phenomena of, right, that art of persistence. It can get you to amazing places with your goals in life.
Yes, absolutely. I like that, the art of persistence. That's absolutely, couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And so what's an actionable piece of advice you would give to someone listening right now who's feeling like, I want to get out of my job, but I don't know if it's the right time. I don't know if I can do it. Right. And you're getting into that imposter syndrome again. So what should they do to just flip that, to change that, if they don't know all of the pieces, right? If they don't know pretty much anything about business, and just kind of where we were when we first started, what would be that tactical advice that could just catapult them to where we are right now when it comes to knowledge and, experience and learning things?
So I think the very first thing, if they've never done any kind of business before and they don't really know what they want to do, then I think that's the first starting point is work with someone who can really get you to a point where you are absolutely clear on what you want. And then once you know what you want, then work on a plan to get you there. So I think it's really important not to just like quit your work and start doing something and hoping it's going to work. You need to be absolutely, like, this is such an important point, is get really, really clear on what it is that you want. And then how do you get there? So yes, there is a phase where there's a little bit more work because you're fully employed and you're starting your at the beginning, your side hustle, but you have to do that and be confident or be in a position so that you can do the both until you're at a point where you then can move over to your side hustle full time. But I really do believe that it all starts with being absolutely clear on what it is that you want to achieve, having someone in your corner to get you there, and then learning what you need to learn along the way, to get you to the point of being able to quit your job and go into your passion, and what it is that you really want to do in life.
Yeah. And so for that person who gets to that point and they finally figured it out, right? They're doing their thing and they're now in the business space. They're in the entrepreneurship space. They have some passive income. Well, there is no such thing as passive income, right? But they have some easier income coming in, some more income coming in. Things are starting to work out. What's the next step? You know, like what you guys are working on. I'm sure you guys have some big things going on in the next few years, right? So for that entrepreneur who's just starting, what should they kind of do?
So they're earning a bit of so just so I'm understanding, they already are earning a passive income. Is it enough to cover what their bases are? So let's just say hypothetically, they are now like, they're making a good 6 figures a month, right? 10K a month to maybe like 100K a month. They're doing pretty well in business. Okay, well, at that stage, I can definitely leave their corporate job or whatever their job is. Well, I would say if they would be ready to leave the job. Just make sure that there's enough in the bank so that you're comfortable for the next 6 months or whatever in case anything happens. But then I think it really starts getting to diversification. So you've been doing this one thing, whatever it may be. Let's just take coaching. That's the easiest for me to explain. So you're doing the one-on-one coaching, for example. Now, is it maybe time to expand into group coaching, or do you want to do live presentations, or you do want to be holding workshops, or do you want to be holding retreats? So it's figuring out then what is the next step to up level, to scale, to broaden. Do you start employing people? So it really depends very much on what is the business that you're doing and how can you look at scaling it and up leveling it.
Awesome. And then let's talk real estate a little bit. Where do you see real estate going? And, what can you teach us about real estate that we need to know as investors, as entrepreneurs? What's something that you don't really see on LinkedIn as a real estate professional yourself that you would want to see?
I think there's not enough, in my personal opinion, there's not enough honesty. There's this massive hype about how everything is either disastrous and everything is falling apart and inflation, everything is awful. And then at the same time, life is so wonderful and you've got all these deals and everything going on. So if the bigger companies could get together and share, because they do these reports internally, and share what is truly happening in the marketplace, and with that information, people can make more informed decisions. So in Canada now, for example, like we've just dropped a basis point, which is fantastic. So the sentiment is a lot more positive now, but we're coming off a really bad year. So understanding that there is this positive upswing, and anyone wanting to invest, like now's the time to jump in. If you want to do something, do it before the herd mentality kicks in. So if you want to, and I come from a commercial perspective, not residential. If you want to do something, do your research, connect with the correct people, and then jump in before the herd does and before things change massively.
I think that's excellent advice. Yes. Real estate is pretty wild today.
It is pretty wild.
America, it's definitely, we have like 13% inflation rates going on today in the United States. So it's insane to want to invest in real estate today. It's like our parents, it's a different time than it was.
Times.
Like 20 years ago, it was just much easier to get your hands on some real estate. And today it's just like, wow, it's definitely competitive. Right? Like I'm always looking for multifamilies. I'm always looking for apartments. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is insane. Like I remember in 2008, it was just like, even with the crash, like before the crash, during the housing bubble, it was just like, wow, it's not this bad. So it's insane. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. That's why I wanted to ask you, because I had seen that you've done a lot of real estate stuff. And so I was so what should the people at the very top of real estate, right? Like Fannie Mac, all of that. What's the solution? How do we solve this? How do we break down the real estate market in a way to where we can keep the housing markets going up, right? Like the prices of houses going up so we can get the most out of our investments, but also, make it affordable for, the average investor, somebody who wants to get started investing. How do we make that possible?
That is a big question. How do you make it possible for the average investor or for the starting investor? So I think for the starting investor, again, don't go at it alone. There's too many permutations. There's too many things that you just don't know. And those are expensive mistakes to make. So there's no need for you to be making those massively financially expensive mistakes. Learn, again, partner with someone who is trustworthy, who's got a reputation. And there's so many people out there who are good people and actually do want to help. Partner with them, learn from them, and start small. Don't start off by buying an apartment building, even if you have the money. Like my suggestion would not be to start that big. Start with buying if it's a condo, buy one door. Like, don't go bigger than that. Learn on that. Make the mistakes on that. Next time around, buy another. Tweak what you learned the first time around, and then start growing your portfolio. Wonderful thing is, like, if something doesn't go right, and you can always sell it, and you can learn it, and you can start again. So I really, really think is don't bite off what you can chew, but that it doesn't overwhelm you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's definitely, I just had to put that out there because I've seen it myself. There's, like you said, there's so much when you go on social media, it's just not exactly how it really is, right? Like there's not a lot of deals happening, and the market might not be as great as LinkedIn might say, or Instagram might say. Yeah. So I like that you mentioned that, because it's just it's very true. Yeah.
But also really important to find the person that you can trust. And a lot of people are excellent salesmen or saleswomen, salespeople. So really, if you can, through a referral, through your network, through just having the conversations, going to meetups, going to real estate forums, going to just these different places, networking functions where you can get to meet people and connect with people, get to know people, and then you find your person that you trust that you can work with. Because
those are great.
Yeah, very, very important.
Yes, those definitely work. Your network is your net worth at the end of the day.
Exactly.
It's just very true. And I've learned that to be true. I mean, I'm probably more of an introvert. I don't know. I'm more of an introvert, extrovert, probably both, ambivert, right? So, yeah. But even for me, I understand that in business and entrepreneurship, you got to kind of force yourself to be an extrovert, because it is important. It's like you said earlier in the beginning of this interview, right? Like, being able to communicate with people and to connect with people. It's one of the last things we're going to have before the robots take over, And so that human connection is just so big. It's a big deal, and it is important, especially in business. So,
I would like to add a slightly different perspective to that. So I agree with you. Yes, you do need to be able to, have conversations with people. But if you or a person is not comfortable to go into these 100+ networking functions, there are different functions where you can find the smaller ones. Maybe it's like a 10-person meetup, or it's something where there's just less people, and start there. Start having conversations on a smaller scale until you get your confidence, and then maybe move to maybe the larger ones, 20+ people, whatever, until you are comfortable to go to the bigger functions. So I think there again, like start just slightly out of your comfort zone until you're comfortable in that next level. Then again, expand your comfort zone a little bit, and then go to the big forums, and then forge your connections there. So I would caution to push yourself too hard and go to these too big functions and have these conversations, or probably actually not even have these conversations because you're probably too nervous to have these conversations, and then you give up. So rather start with something which is slightly out of your comfort zone and grow it from there.
I think that's excellent. Yes. Yeah, that's a great twist on it. And that's the great way. That's the best way, I think, for sure. Start small, start easy, get some practice in, but definitely put yourself out there for sure.
And celebrate it. I think that's also something that's really important that we just don't do. Like, if you've never been to any kind of function, or you've never done a certain thing in life, instead of just like, okay, great, it's done now, actually take the time, be like, yay, me, I did this. I've never done this before. It's out of my comfort zone, but yes, I did it. And that also reinforces the confidence, and it grows the confidence. So doing the action, celebrating the action, reinforces it so that you have the confidence to take another step and another action. So it kind of like builds you up on the success scale.
Right. When working out for me is a big deal. That's a big priority in my life. And the reason is because I just love to see the results. I like to see okay, I want to carve this part of my body, and then you do it within like 6 months, and you're like, sweet, I really hit that goal. I look great, right? Or whatever that might be. Like, I want to hit 315 this month. Sweet, you bench 315. And that was like the best moment ever for me when I was able to get 3 plates. I was like, yes, I worked for like 8 months on this. And so that was huge. Yeah. But it's so true. It's, again, like we were talking about earlier, right? It's like riding a bike. It's like you're just consistently learning new things. You're getting better every day. And so that's kind of how you
claiming
have to
the win.
approach it. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And there's a big difference between claiming the win and celebrating versus like bragging about it. Like, so it's those are two completely different things. You get to be proud of your achievement. That's not bragging. It's purely you get to be proud of what you have done. So yes, that's excellent.
And as far as your life coaching business goes, kind of what are you guys working on today, and what's the goal for the next 5 years?
So I'm actually just, I do a combination. I do one-on-one coaching and I do group coaching. I like both, but the reason I offer both is that sometimes, again, speaking to the extrovert introvert, sometimes people are just more comfortable in a one-on-one setting, and that's absolutely fine. Sometimes what happens is that one-on-one people then actually want to migrate into the group coaching setting. So that's, there's lots of options there. The group coaching I really enjoy because I find that in a sort of a container and in a group setting, you can get a lot out of people, and it's really quite. Like, it just makes you feel more comfortable if you know that you're not the only person who's going through this. It's one thing reading the stats that 70 to 80% of people have had imposter syndrome, but it's another thing actually being in a group and hearing people's stories and being like, okay, this is I can identify with this. And if you have that sort of group of like-minded people, it's easier, I find, to get to a positive state quicker and to get people to goals quicker. So my goal really is just to grow that, to reach as many people as I possibly can, to help them get over the imposter syndrome so that they really can up-level their career. And maybe it's getting a promotion, maybe it's starting something completely by themselves. Like, whatever it is, getting them to a point where they are confident enough within themselves to take that step, to do it, and to consistently stay with it. And then in this group setting and with me, we have that accountability and to just help people keep on track. And that's really what motivates me, to see people go after their dreams and to go after their passions and achieve it. It's massively motivating to me.
I think that's awesome that you're building a community too. Building a community is tough, and it is awesome though when it comes to, getting to that goal, right? Like, you got to have a team. You can't have a football team without a team. You can't have a baseball team without a team. You got to have a team.
Yes.
Because that's what creates the magic. That's what creates the real thing. That's what gets to the goal.
B2B growth today. We build the American dream. We do it for the visionaries. We do it for the working men and women who make America great. We do it for the single mother, the tired father whose hands are calloused and dirty, and for the grandparents who did it all first. We do it for the soldier looking for a second chance, the same opportunity they fought for when some sacrificed their lives for it. For the police officer, for the firefighter, for the healthcare workers, for the trucker, the dentist, the doctor, the software developers, the CPAs, and the CEOs. For the realtor, the investor, the stockbroker on Wall Street, or the janitor who took a chance and risked everything for the dream and made it a reality. For those who still believe in the American dream. For the dreamers who hone their passions and never dare to let it go. We help build the idea of something more, something powerful, everlasting, and remarkable. We believe in the human experience. We believe in your story. We believe in America. Let us build your future with our marketing and advertising services, because together, America is strong. Together, we can accomplish the impossible and reach the stars. We can go to Mars. We can redefine the laws of gravity, and we can become one as a species. The decision is yours. The future is in your hands, and you are in ours. Because with B2B growth today, your American dream is our dream.
And so
it absolutely does. Yeah, I agree. And even from a swimming perspective, like, yes, you race by yourself, but you can't do it without a team. You train every day together. You train 30 hours a week, whatever it is, by the time you've run and you've done your lifting and you've done the swimming or whatever. To have a team to lean on and a coach to guide you is just like, that's really just the winning formula.
Yeah. And so what about some personal goals? Like, what in your own life, what are you working on and what's happening? Where do you want to be in the next 10 years?
Where do I want to be in the next 10 years? So I really would like to grow my coaching business to such a point where I can also employ people more. I've got one employee at the moment, but I'd like to grow that so that I also can go after this freedom that we were speaking about, so that I can take my family on holidays and we can, the lovely thing about doing online work is that you can work from anywhere in the world and still provide that value. So that's definitely still something.
Yes, that's a big reason I got into SMMA. Yes, but continue.
Yeah. But still providing that value, right? It doesn't matter where in the world you're doing it from, as long as you're providing the value and getting the people the outcome and getting them to what it is that they want, then you're still doing it and enjoying it. But in terms of personal goals, so I really miss swimming. I would love to. It's such a silly little thing, but I haven't swum in many, many, many years. So I'd love to get back into the pool again. I'd love to swim again. Just from a personal basis, just to get back into, I'll never get back into that shape again. So I'm certainly not going to be training 30 hours a week anymore, but just to get fitter, healthier, because I feel also like that being fit and being healthy influences every aspect of your life. And I've kind of been letting that go a little bit. So I want to bring that up again, just to balance everything. So that's actually a surprisingly big goal of mine.
Yeah, for me, it's like I'm still in law enforcement right now, but it's kind of more by choice because I've just been, for me, it's just kind of, I worked hard enough to do it. I'm here. Let's just do it a little bit longer. But a big reason I got into business is the same reasons, right? To have that freedom to be flexible and to be able to go wherever you want, to just work from a laptop. That's an amazing thing, right? Work right from your phone. That's an amazing thing. And to be able to have that independence is just a whole, it's a great thing, right? Being able to go to jujitsu every day, being able to, learn guitar for me. I like that stuff I really knew how to do that I can't wait to like really master more, right? So you can't do all those things that you want to do with your spare time unless you get yourself that time. And so that's where owning a business or, you're running a successful business, whatever you're doing, it should be entrepreneurial. That's what's going to give you that freedom in life, doing what you love. And so that's why I love having guests like you on,
I love being here, but also just to stack onto that. So it's that making sure that we keep a balance across everything. So in my opinion, there's no such thing as a work-life balance. That's something that was coined in the 1980s for baby boomers. There is no such thing as a work-life balance because you're always going to be, if you want to get ahead in one thing in life, you're going to have to lean into that area a little bit more, right? So when you're starting a business or so, then yes, you're going to be spending more time there. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why society tells us that's a bad thing to be working hard at something if you love it and you're passionate about it. But there does come a point where you need to even the scales a little bit, and maybe you haven't spent time with family, you haven't spent enough time with friends or whatever it is. So it's more of an ebb and a flow versus having this perfect balance the whole time. So once you've done, put in all the effort into the work, then balancing it a little bit with being with your family, being in nature, being whatever it is that fills you up again so that you can go back. So, I just wanted to stack that on as well.
For sure. Yeah. That health, wealth, love, happiness. You want all of it.
Yes.
Right? You want an abundance of all of those things. That's what really creates the good life. It's not having, because you don't want to be, you don't want to be 500 pounds with like $10 billion, right? That would be really fun.
Exactly.
You don't want to be, you don't want to have a life-threatening illness with millions of dollars, So you want to be able to enjoy your life, enjoy your family, and everything you're doing should be really for your, your generational wealth, that your future bloodline. That's the way I like to think of it. Yeah. And really just having a balance of all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me and for my husband, a big thing is also just to show our kids that life isn't just about work. You can actually enjoy what you're doing. You can love what you're doing. You can be passionate about what you're doing. It's fine to work hard, but then to find the balance to equal it out again and to spend time with the family. So for us, for both my husband and I, it's important to show that, work, you can be passionate about it. You can love it. You can enjoy it. And just to instill that in them as well. So it's not just like, I'm stuck in a 9 to 5. It's there's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. You can absolutely enjoy a 9 to 5. But what important is that you are enjoying it. That's what's really important.
Yes, Thomas Jefferson talked about the pursuit of happiness, right? And the best way you're going to be able to pursue happiness is to be able to have that flexibility and the freedom in your life to do what you want to do, to balance all the important things at once, if you can. Yeah. And so that's kind of the key. And if you can figure that out, that's where you can really actually pursue happiness. You'll have that ability to pursue the happiness. So, absolutely. And so where can everybody find you on social media?
I am pretty active on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, everywhere at Romy V Coaching. Awesome. Very active there.
And anything else that you're promoting? Any big programs?
So what I'm offering at the moment, which I'm actually quite excited about, is really it's a 30-minute call with anyone who's interested to help you identify where you are currently at, what is holding you back, and where do you want to go? So that you should find those links also again on Facebook and on LinkedIn. Just click on it, book that free 30-minute call with me, and let me help you get from where you're currently at to see what it is that you want and what is holding you back from getting you there.
Absolutely. Everybody, make sure that you visit those websites. I'll make sure I put it on the screen too, so everybody can see it as we're watching this. And
fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show. You know, I wish I could make these longer. Unfortunately, I have to go to a shift right after this, and then I have to work. Then I have to work with a few other clients. So we're super busy and jam-packed today, but that's the beauty of life.
Wonderful.
Right?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me here, Brandon. I really, really appreciate it. It was wonderful to have this chat.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being on.